Like, that's going to be the last one. So you say to the children, you're going to use collage. One of their favorite things is cut and paste, collage, right? And you're going to put, let's see if this is the rabbit or the cat. Okay, you're going to put a rabbit on this double page spread. So part of this is you're giving them language for what books are. When you open a book to 2 pages, it's a double page spread. So I love having kindergarten say, it's a double page spread. I mean, it sort of freaks me out. That's totally amazing. So, but what they're going to do is a little rabbit way down there. Okay? And that's okay if you want to have a tremendous feeling of angst, right? And the universe is huge, and I'm a sort of an insignificant little rabbit. Now, that's great. That's a great illustration, but that's not what they were planning, right? So you can use that, but probably not with kindergartens or grade 1. But probably grade 3, you can start to use that kind of visual approach. Now, so what I push with them, and of course the teachers have to follow, use close-ups. Get up close to it. Right? And so these are colored construction paper and crayons. So what I found is that, and crayons are great. Bill Peet, in all of his books, uses crayons. There are a few illustrators that actually use crayons, wax crayons, not many. Anyway, so this big close-up gets that character right into your face. And of course, kids get it. Now, they try this. They're not always hugely successful, but they still do it, and they do it in their own way. Again, you can use patterns. I have no problem. I'm an artist. I draw everything. I can draw anything. And I have no problem with coloring books, trying to color in the lines to develop skill, and also using patterns in your classroom. Because if you have a pattern that shape cut out, the kid's going to color it in their own way, right? Okay? So I have no problem with patterns. Anyway, so I'll show you a few of these big. In this case, this would make a good pattern, just a dog, right? A simple, I mean, if I take that off there, I think it's just on there with tape, and you look at it without the coloring, okay? It's a very simple pattern. And how the student colors it is up to them. And of course, that brings the life to it, makes it theirs. So that's voice, that's visual voice, right? Right? So. Again, so there's nothing wrong with a pattern. Make it big. Let them color it. So this means you have more work at home or during other classroom time when you have it. Okay. This is one which also shows that you can use various components. And again, any kid can do this. This is the point. Anybody can cut out a simple house. You might suggest, oh, what about a yellow window? Do a moon. In this case, is a bat. All right? And then put your text on a box, right? Rather than having kids print in books, I found that if they print it right in the books, oh, well, then you're spelling mistakes, and I'm not going to let them get away with that. I'm sorry. Not in a book. So in your final book, you need good spelling. So have boxes where you put your spelling, and if you don't get it right the first time, do it again. Not a big deal. Just keep doing it. Hey, it's perfect. Let's glue it in. You have a fabulous book. Show your parents, right? Show your classmates. So these, as you can tell, they're probably old because they're fading like crazy. Right? And this is just another big frog, okay? So again, big, crayons, simple. In this case, I'm using lots of close-ups simply because kids almost never use a close-up. And if you do that, you can get emotion. You can have word balloons. I don't have anything here, I think, with word balloons. Text boxes, word balloons. I have no problem, again, when I work with kids, they say, can I have some word balloons, even though they have the text boxes? Because when you're in schools, generally speaking, the teachers want you to use text boxes. It's part of, right? I mean, sort of for text, but text boxes and word balloons, fine. Now, since I'm on this visual, and before I start drawing, I'll show you a few more techniques. These are a little bit more sophisticated, and I would say these could work with, who knows? These could work with the younger kids. The skill set is higher. But I do this with grade 2s at the Toronto French School, which I've gone to for 13 years in a row. So, I mean, and I love it. And these are kids who are a little bit more driven, right? Because they're, highly focused. They, anyway, their parents are paying big bucks, so they, So these interesting illustrations or techniques are simple to do using Frottage. Can anybody tell me what Frottage is? I'm sure there's a few people. This is a test. Rubbing. It's like brass rubbings. You knew what it was, you just didn't know that word. That's such a fun word. You say that to grade 2s or 3s, you're going to do frottage today. And they all go, right? And then they go home at lunch or whenever later after school, we did frottage today. And their parents go, oh, yeah. Anyway, so frottage means that you have to find a bunch of patterns. If you don't feel uncomfortable about going to dollar stores, you can buy all sorts of pieces of tile and plastic things which have patterns, and you just put them under the paper and get crayons and you rub on top like a brass rubbing, and these wonderful patterns come through. So this sun came from just cutting a piece of white, thick cardboard. Not this particular one because I couldn't find the circular ones, but I cut out pieces of cardboard so I make my own patterns when I take them into school. So that you can do that. It's very simple. You can cut cross grids, whatever, and they put that under here with a crayon on top on a piece of yellow paper. And so I talk to the kids about color contrast. So there's contrast of language, there's contrast of words, right? So this is color contrast. They get a little bit of art theory. So warm on cool looks good. Cool on warm looks good. So you can talk about color. See, so this doesn't require big art education. Warm and cool contrasts, light and dark contrasts are the strongest contrasts in the world of art. So use light and dark, warm and cool, and your kids become wonderful frottage artists. Okay? So this pattern was done by cutting out some fire-shaped paper, which I don't have, and then frottaging it and then drawing the other characters in crayon. So a few examples where it gets a little bit more complex, like this dog, okay, and this background. And I'm going to walk around again very quickly because I know you can't see this, but this was done with frottage. And if I could put my glasses on, this is one I did or a kid did, and he gave it to me. This is one a kid did, and I said, can I have that? Okay, so this was a test sample. Anyway. So the weird dog is fun. And you notice it's a warm, cool contrast? And I keep wanting to get Mary to publish some color. I just have to get that in there, okay? It's very costly, and I absolutely know why just the cover is in color. But anyway. And I'm going to go this way. So this one on my left hand is very complex. It's got lots of patterns, lots of, almost some abstract components. And this was a grade 2. Grade 2. Well, there was a little bit of assistance going on, but anyway, it was grade 2. Okay. I'm coming around again.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
This wasn't a grade 2. That was me. And you people, so did I come to you? No. Just because you're in the front, you get left out. I mean, I use this technique when I teach as well. I mean, you're my students, okay? And if you don't do this in your class, I mean, I'm sure you do, but when you walk right up, I look at your faces as you're looking at this. It's a good teaching technique. If some kid's not looking at you, I go, right? I mean, like, look at this thing. So you get, I mean, it's an obvious teaching technique, right? So that you're walking right into their faces. Now, some other visual techniques which are for probably more older students, even though I would try it with any age of kid, is a more designy approach. And I'm just trying to see if I have the repetition of what I've got. Okay. So in this case, if you alter the background color, and this just means that you hold two pieces of blue together and you cut it out once. And if kids are working together, and you can't so much see this pattern from below, but it just gives you this nice watery pattern. So if there's two kids, one gets the dark blue on the bottom, the other gets a light blue, and the other one gets a dark blue on the top, and the other one gets a light blue, because it's two pieces of paper cut out at the same time. So there's all this sort of thing that any teacher in time would figure out. But if you haven't done this, this can expand your artistic visual presentation. So a simple thing like a frog, a warm frog on a double cool background. It's all about trying to get the best results, right? And this is what graphic designers do, designers, artists, painters, illustrators. So again, a simple cat walking along, an ogre on a horizontal pattern with various colors. So they're simple design techniques which sort of get more out of kids. So then you get into straight patterns. You can explore history. You can go back, where did that come from? Is that a French design? Is that a Russian design? Is that a Japanese design? Is that a Chinese design? That kind of, now when you do a pattern like this, you have all the negative pieces, which they can use on the next page. So you end up not wasting paper, saving paper. So you're teaching handicraft skills, design skills, conceptual skills, 3D skills. And the last one is the more sophisticated. This, certainly grade 3s and 5s have been able to do this, but just you know, very cut out silhouettes, a la Arthur Rackham and others. I mean, there are some wonderful Canadian picture books where they use silhouettes, and right now it escapes me. But anyway. So a few different ways to approach. So frottage, collage are fantastic techniques because most kids love to draw, and only a certain percentage of kids can draw successfully enough that they feel good about it. Grade, again, 2s, 3s, 4s don't care that much, but if they get older, they want success. And so collage, I've done collage techniques with grades 7 and 8 and high school students. And one of the most successful was the ABC of rock and roll that a grade 8 kid did. He was so happy that I'd even let him do it because there were all these weird bands. I said, of course, it's a great book idea, the ABC of rock and roll. And he went to town and he used collage and colored pencils and everything. I don't have it because that's his book. He wanted to keep it. So, but anyway, so you certainly can use all of these techniques with older students. Now, let's just see if there's anything there I want to look at. So, as far as storyboarding with grades 3 and up, 24 pages. Picture books come in 24 pages or 32 pages usually, occasionally 16, but I'm not sure how many I've seen, but 24 and 32 for a picture book format, and that has to do with printing and the press sheet. How do we save costs? So in the old days, they'd publish books that were 48 pages, 52, all sorts of weird numbers. I've all counted them all, right? And I think, where do they come up with that? But that's in the back in the 50s and the 60s, right? So and even Thousands of Cats by Wanda Gag, I think 1934 or something, weird page sequences because picture books were a brand new invention and people were trying to figure out what to do with it. All right, but today, 24, 32 pages. It's a standard. So that's a 24-page format. Now, when the child gets it, of course, I'm going to draw these techniques in a minute. They draw the storyboard. You don't need to see details, but they just draw it. And I did it with marker so that you could see it roughly from a distance. They use pencil so they can erase. Okay? You can have plenty of them so that they can do a second one if they have to. Now, I have to find one more thing, which is in one of these bags. And I think I will walk around again because this is an original storyboard from a child, actually probably a team. What Emily and I found, we started going out and doing storyboard workshops, and we got so busy that we split. We were like a cell structure, right? You know, all of a sudden, and then because people wanted us so much, so at one point, for about 10 years in a row, I did 50 storyboard presentations, 10 years in a row. And after that, I thought I have to stop this because it was way too much. I hardly had a life. But I learned a lot. So with all of this, I saved a few, and I don't have a date on this, but it's probably, this storyboard says 1983. So I've been doing them since then. So this is either 83 to 86 because it has a date on it. And then this is the little monster that found a friend. And here's my editing. So when I would go to the schools, I would sit down with a child's thing like this, and they'd come up to me like in teams, and I would do that to it. And I'd tell them I'm going to do that. So you might think, holy smokes, you're going to crush the child totally. And this is their language, their writing. Here's another good thing. They can do the writing on another storyboard. So you as a teacher, you sit there, you have their little drawings, you have all their writing on another storyboard, and you look at them both, and you make comparisons to see that it works. And this helps them write, we're talking younger kids, this helps them write long sentences or short paragraphs, okay? Because they have to get it all into that storyboard. Or another way of approaching this for older students